Hello, good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. State Security National Intelligence Bureau has a report that some 93% of over 5,000 NPP executives across the country want Bawumia to pick a running mate from the Ashanti region. 94% want the person to be a man, not a woman. 84% want this man to be Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, while only 15% favor Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Educhum. It may not confirm popular public views against the choice, but is Dr. Bawumia being stampeded on a matter he must exercise choice? Handsoff Our Hotels demonstration. Will the petition to the president to stop the sale change anything, as SNIT appears to justify the sale of hotels and Minister Bryan fights off allegations of wrongdoing? Parliament, your august house, they call it, is unable to get 92, just 92, of its 275 members in that house to form a quorum for its ordinary business. The last time I checked, business sitting was suspended because the majority MPP had a handful, just about a dozen people, MPs in that house. And the minority had some 3 dozen or so present. But is the NDC justified in boycotting the House to accompany its leader, Ato Forson, to courts in the ambulance trial? I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. Stay right here. We'll deal with the vexed matters. Welcome back. And here is Samson's take. I title it, Why CSO Leaders Indict Akufo-Addo on Corruption. Why CSO leaders indict Akufo-Addo on corruption. When things happened in a rather bizarre fashion that led to Daniel Yao Domelevo being removed from office as the Auditor General, one of the presidents called him his good friend and a real big man in the CSO fraternity, Professor Jimabwedi of the CDD, said this. He said, quote, "As for the president's credibility in terms of anti-corruption, I am afraid it is in tatters. It has been in tatters for a while, but this puts a nail in the coffin." A couple of weeks ago, another friend of his, Franklin Kujo of Imani, took him on very seriously. In fact, people he had been very good friends with, some of whom he had put in positions of trust in the Republic, have been extremely disappointed at him, with him. Some of them who have their moral compasses right, left this ship, the Akufo-Addo ship. They left it. You know them. They are very few. So, earlier in 2019, the NDC issued a statement, and that's what has been projected on the television for you, alleging a plot by government to remove Domelevo from office as the Auditor General. Many doubted it and said the NDC was, as usual, on one of its propaganda jobs. It didn't take long. In June 2020, for Yao Domelevo to be directed to proceed on accumulated leave. He went on the leave, returned, a leave of over 100 days. And when he returned, there was another circular from the presidency or a letter to him to proceed on leave. He was sacked. This was the time that the World Bank had rated the Auditor General of Ghana the highest among its peers, among his peers in the world, as a very credible supreme auditing entity, an anti-corruption fighting place. Yet Domelevo was removed. CSOs came together under the CDD and they took up a suit in the Supreme Court. Many got criticized, many got insulted, including myself, who were very clear about what was happening. It was a clear political witch hunt because of what he had done against the senior minister at the time and some of the special audits that he was doing at the time. It took a long time, but the Supreme Court will vindicate the CSOs that they were right and that the action by the president was wrong. That was some 3 years later. Here we are today. The Auditor General who took over from Daniel Domelevo, Johnson Ekwamwa, he has also reached his retirement period, time. But his contract has been extended. Yes. And his contract has been extended at a time a similar report shows that it has done poorly. At Domelevo's time, the report by the World Bank showed he had done extremely well and the institution was doing well. He did not deserve an extension of his tenure. But the man who has superintended the deterioration of the integrity perception for the institution deserves an extension of his tenure. So you see why Professor Jima Bwedi and the likes will say the president's anti-corruption credentials are in tatters. The Constitution says, and I read it to you again, I have read not too long ago, Article 296. It says, where in this Constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. Fair and candid. Fair and candid is reflected in the consistency of the actions you take. Mr. President, you have not been consistent. Where you are expected to sack, you are promoting. Where you are expected to promote, you sacked. It says the exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process. The verdict on the street is something you must be worried about. Don't listen to your party people. They will not tell you the truth. My style of journalism has been this consistent ever since you knew me. Label and call me whatever you may when you please. This is my take. We'll be right back. Welcome back. My guest, Andrew Ejapa-Mensah, is MP, 2nd D, and Minister for Tourism. Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa is MP Norton and Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. Dr. Theo Echampong is CDD Fellow and Political Risk Analyst. They will help us to analyze the NIB, not the bank, the State's Intelligence Organization's report on who should be Dr. Bawumia's running mate. And then in our second segment, where we throw the floodlight on SNIT and its decision to sell its hotels, which has sparked a lot of controversy, leading to the Handsoff demonstration. This week, we shall have the two gentlemen right here, and also Dr. Theo Echampong, as well as Abraham Kumsin, Secretary General of the Ghana Federation of Labour. And then the three who are starting with us will also end with us on the subject of Parliament's inability, a 275-member chamber, its inability to raise 92 of its members so it can conduct its ordinary business. Yes, it's okay to blame it on the minority because they accompany Ato Forson to the court. The judge has refused to grant them their prayer that he should be allowed to come to Parliament on certain days. And they too say, if you won't allow him, we will follow him to the court and not do parliamentary business. You can blame them. But whilst you blame them, remember that the NPP has how many members of Parliament? And yet they cannot raise 92 members to do the ordinary business of the House. So in fact, what they have been doing over the last few days, in the weeks, has been this. You try to get the few people in the House, the handful of people in the House, you get them to be mute. Nobody raises an issue of a quorum so that they will illegally conduct business. Because once the issue of quorum is not raised, they are allowed to continue even if there are two people in the House. Yeah. Unless somebody says, we are not 92, so we can't continue, then the speaker will stop. Anyway, interesting. Gentlemen, thank you very much and welcome to Newsfile this morning.
Pleasure.
Right. Dr. Theo Echampong, are you with us? Okay, Dr. Theo Echampong will join us shortly. Now, so the NIB report, I'm sure, gentlemen, you've all taken a look at it. It says it surveyed some 5,116 NPP executives across the country, and out of that number, you have as many as 94% saying Bawumia should choose a male vice presidential candidate, so to speak, a flag bearer, supporter, running mates. And then 92, almost 93% of them want whoever is choosing this man to come from the Ashanti region and no other place. They gave Matthew Opoku Prempeh 76%. Okay, so I looked at, they gave Matthew Opoku Prempeh, yes, 84%, is it? And then 15% for Educhum. Or rather, the preferred candidate, the most preferred, has 76%. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, 76%. And then Educhum had 10.16%. Osaiche Mensah Bonsu, is in the running with 3.38%. Frima Opari, 3.34%. Joe Osei Wise, 2.27%. And all the others that you may have heard mentioned before, 4.5%, 4.57%. So let's start with you, Japamesa. My question is rather a simple one. The choice is Dr. Bawumia's to make, right?
Without a doubt. Let me say good morning to
Is he being really left with a choice?
Well, it doesn't. Even though I would have preferred that no such survey, obviously unwarranted, was conducted by the State Intelligence Bureau.
Oh, you think this is unwarranted?
Because then it creates the sense that Dr. Bawumia is being pressured into a certain decision. Thankfully, his spokesperson has spoken and has indicated that he has made up his mind a long time ago, as to who he is going to go with. And so, even though I'm not in a position to confirm what's in his mind, if it coincides with what the survey has generated, then you would have people wanting to conclude that maybe it's because of the outcome of the survey that has led him to make the choice that he intends to make. It may not be fair on him. And so that's why I feel that putting this confidential, as is described, document out there in the public domain may not be fair to His Excellency the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia. I think we should leave him. He's been at the role for 8 years. He's been in politics actively for 16 years. He knows the terrain. He knows what he wants and who assist him in executing the mandate that a good people of this country he's seeking from. And so to make it look as if he's being pressured, or that what the party grassroots necessarily is saying is what he has to go with, I don't think is fair.
In fact, his
because I'm trying to put myself in his position. And
his spokesperson, as you referred to,
yes.
Dennis Miracle Sabuaji, says that the Vice President had made up his mind about his running mate long before he got elected on November 4.
Yeah, I'm inclined to believe that. Because, Samson, if I was going to go into a serious election such as the flag bearership of a political party, my intention would be to win the flag bearership and proceed to win the general election. Who my team would be, I will have a fair sense of what they will be made up of. And so your number 2 person, obviously somebody that you would have considered over time, probably somebody from your previous employment, somebody you've known, or somebody that you've come into contact with whilst in government that you feel can complement you in achieving your vision that you are selling to the people of Ghana, would be who you will go for. And I wouldn't be surprised that he had that person in mind a long time ago before.
And to be fair to the facts also, Matthew Poku Prepe has been in the running from the get-go. So this may simply be confirming a choice that he has already made. That's possible.
Well, I wouldn't want to put myself in speculating for and on behalf of the flag bearer. I think we have to afford him the opportunity to announce formally his choice. I have worked with Dr. Matthew Poku Prepe for at least 3.5 years, directly. I've known him for some time during our first term in Parliament. I even knew him before when he was banking at my previous employment, First Atlantic Merchant Bank, where I worked for close to 8 years. Okay, so I've known him. I've publicly gone out to express my desire that if the Vice President selects him, it will be an ideal choice.
Okay.
But it is not for me. Okay, I can, and same with other people who are expressing views on other people that they know that they would want or wish for the Vice President to make an announcement in their favor. But he is the one we've chosen to lead our party. He is the one that we are presenting on our ticket. He is the one, if by the grace of God he wins, going to govern the country. So he is the one that our Constitution empowers him to choose who he feels he's comfortable with to work, to partner him in going into election and to govern our country. So I think that it's only fair that we allow him to make his own choice. And whatever choice that he makes, my understanding is that very soon would not be based on any pressures from anybody necessarily, but because he himself knows that this is the person.
The commentary is that it's taking the vice president too long.
I don't think so at all.
To make a decision.
I do not think so at all.
Your opponent made his decision long before now.
When was he selected?
Before he made his decision,
when was he
there were
selected?
comments from your party members suggesting that it was taking him forever to make that decision.
When was our opponent selected? And when did he announce his running mate? In fact, the fact that it turned out to be someone that he had contested with before, the time that it took for him to announce, in my view, I don't want to use unwarranted again. But clearly, so you cannot fault Dr. Bawumia, who was selected only in November, and we're in June, 6 or so months down the line. Because you see, like Miracle said, there are a lot of consultations a lot of consultations that you need to go through before you finally put out the name. Yes, you have the prerogative to choose, but you operate within a system. And so it is important that you bring everybody along. And so that bringing everybody along would require some consultative process. And I'm sure that that's exactly what His Excellency the Vice President is going to do now.
As a party, are you worried that some surveys, public ones, do suggest often that Educhum may be the ideal guy? From the way you look at him, does he compare to the Opoku Prempeh that you would wish becomes the vice presidential candidate?
Look, everybody, I'm sure, has some strengths. Everybody obviously will have some weaknesses. And so it's a gamut of the two that the candidate will have to weigh. Dr. Educhum is an excellent human being. I haven't worked with him closely, but I've sat in cabinet with him for some time now, and his contributions are pretty excellent. He carries himself well. But of course, he may have some weaknesses that would come to the fore. And if you look at the survey, what the party people felt clearly tells you that the strengths that he has is not sufficient enough to outweigh the weaknesses in their view.
All right.
And so I think that whoever the vice president selects, I'm happy. I trust in his judgment. I would work with him and whoever he chooses to ensure that we win the election in 2024.
What influences the decision more? What the party people want or what the generality of Ghanaians want? And there are many who cast Matthew Opoku Prempeh as arrogant.
Because they don't know him.
Yes. and I know these things can happen. And I make a confession to you. Yeah. When, for a long time, Akufo-Addo was contesting and he was being cast in the picture and frame of arrogance. Mm-hmm. And many people were just saying he's arrogant, he doesn't deserve to get close to the presidency and so on. I had the opportunity to join his campaign. And throughout the campaign, as we went around the country, I came to report with my encounters with him that from what I have seen, mm-hmm. he's not arrogant. And that his confidence at what he knows and does, and the way he does it, may be what people misconstrue for arrogance.
But is it not the case that people tend to castigate who they feel to be their strongest opponent more, with all sorts of characterizations? And so it doesn't come to me as a surprise at all when people describe Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh in those terms.
Okay.
But anybody who has had any close association with him probably will die for him because of the kind of human being that he is.
Okay.
And so...
how soon are we expecting this announcement to be made?
I'm not in a position to say.
Oh, you know it, please.
No, I'm not. Honest to God, I do not. We had been told by the campaign team that the announcement will be made sometime in June. We still have some 10 or 11 days more for the month to run out. 8 days. So let's see if there's any reason why it would be deferred further. I'm sure that the consultations amongst the party hierarchy and the candidate will be held and that extension will be granted. But the speculation that has been too long in coming, I don't think that it's borne out by anything on the ground at all. If you compare to previous times that the running mate was selected across parties.
Sammy, what a coincidence that it is expected that this announcement will happen in June, and just in the middle somewhere, then the National Intelligence Bureau throws this at the public.
Well, good morning, Samson. Good morning to Ijapa Mesa and the rest of the panel and all our viewers.
What's your media organization again?
Across the globe.
Your media organization, what's the name again? The Reverend gave you a certain media name for your media work. You've forgotten.
Oh, Demon Investigations.
We'll get the Demon Investigations. All right.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let me begin by expressing my very strong reservation. It's an extremely strong one at what our state intelligence institution is doing.
This will not be new.
Is an organization run with our taxes. All Ghanaians, not only MPP members. If they want to conduct a poll on who best should be the running mate of an MPP candidate, there are so many organizations in this country, academics in the universities. Go and engage them with your party money, dues from your members. Don't use our organization, a state-run organization, run with our taxes. This is abuse of office.
Will this be new?
I have never heard this or seen. It used to be BNI in the past.
That's right.
I've never seen anything like this.
I thought they used to do something for the candidates, not as in an inter-party process, but the candidates.
I'm only aware that getting to the elections, the national security apparatus will meet candidates and say that we want to assign national security operatives to protect all of you. In this case, so where is the poll that they did to support the NDC presidential candidate, the CPP presidential candidate, the aspiring PNC presidential candidate? Let's stop this abuse of office. Let me pay regard to the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act 2020. The National Security Intelligence Agencies. Section 12, the departments existing immediately before the coming into force of this act and known as the Bureau of National Investigation, now referred to as the National Intelligence Bureau and the Research Department respectively, are continued in existence under this act as the internal and external intelligence agencies of the state. The supervising body of the intelligence agencies is the National Security Council, and we know the National Security Council is chaired by the President. You have Foreign Minister, Finance Minister, other ministers there, paid by taxpayers. Let's come to section 14, functions of the National Security Intelligence Agencies, the internal agency. So the internal agency in this case is the National Intelligence Bureau, which is busying itself about with MPP polls. This is its function under the law. To brief the President, the National Security Council, and any other relevant stakeholder on intelligence gathered internally, relevant to the national security interests of the country. National security interests of the country. How does choosing Napo, Dumchum, or whoever become relevant to the national security interests of our country? B, monitor, collect, analyze, evaluate, retain, and disseminate in an appropriate manner information intelligence gathered internally and perform intelligence operations. They shall be responsible for counterintelligence and activities for the internal security and stability of the country. Intelligence gathered internally in order to prevent counter-violent extremism, including terrorism in the country. Serious mandate given to this body. And you go about conducting MPP polls with my taxpayers' money. How do they expect NDC members to feel? Neutrals to feel? With our taxes. That's what they are doing with our taxes. In the NDC, I'm aware that before President Mahama announced Professor Nana Jinopoku-Ajima, his spokespersons have confirmed that they conducted 4 polls. Those polls were conducted by private organizations. Ghana does not lack pollsters, credible ones at that. Take MPP money from MPP dues. Now, how much has been spent on this? Look, in the coming days, I'm going to hold the National Security Minister to tell us which part of the law allows our internal security agency that should be protecting us from counterterrorism. Look, all the reports I have seen as a ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, we ought to be worried. What is happening along the borders? Are you aware that all our neighbors have been hit with terrorism? All of them, not one. Togo was with us in the exclusive minority group of countries that have not been hit. They have been hit recently. So we have been asked to be on the red alert. We have been asked to even provide more resources to the security agencies. And this is what they are doing with the resources that we are providing for them.
I've moderated a number of sessions over this terrorism and counterterrorism issues, and they give the indication that they are on the ground, they are doing their work. So this may just be something extra that it doesn't mean that they are doing this at the neglect of what they are supposed to do.
No, but Samson, it doesn't even matter whether it's at the neglect. Should they be doing this? You are a respected lawyer. Show me any provision under the law which gives them this mandate. Why are they delving into partisan matters? Why? When you do this, are you not just getting everybody there to become an MPP functionary? Why are you looking for MPP delegates and interviewing them when you should be fighting counterterrorism, making sure that the stability, the territorial integrity of our country is protected? Is this your mandate? Look, as we speak, Galamsey, are you aware Galamsey is back? In full force. It's not too long ago, the nation...
You are asking if it is back. Did it go?
Well, it never even went anywhere. You are right.
The year when there was a moratorium, a year when it was banned, the records show, official records, that we had the most exports of illegal, gold.
You are right. At the time they are conducting this survey, the nation has been outraged at that video that captured the Western Regional Minister. I'm glad that the Honorable Japamesa is from that region. And the Amenfi East MPP parliamentary candidate, Frederick Kranchi, who announced, unknown to parliamentarians, because what we did in Parliament was to approve funding for continuous anti-Galamsey operations by our soldiers. That parliamentary candidate, receiving applause from the Western Regional Minister, said that they have dissolved these groups, these soldiers, disbanded the units. There is no longer anti-Galamsey operations, and that they are free to mine, to engage in Galamsey. And what he adds, which affronts all of us,
I think that we have to be accurate fair to the facts. He didn't say they are free to mine, as in Galamsey. You said Galamsey. Yes, they said he said Galamsey, about 3 of them.
Yes.
He named them and said they've been cancelled.
Yes.
But he didn't ask them to go and do Galamsey.
No, but he said that if they see the soldiers when they are mining, they should beat them up and call for reinforcement. You didn't see that video?
If they see soldiers who are on patrol, they should cooperate, and they should even incentivize them. But if they see soldiers who are on their own and not on patrol, if they hit them, they should hit back.
Yes.
Yeah.
He called for an attack. And that is why we've all condemned that video. These are the things we expect our security agencies to be paying regard to, paying serious attention. I don't see anywhere in the law. Look, when I saw this report, I thought that probably some fake news. I was expecting that the NIB will issue a statement and distance themselves from this report. Look, in the coming days, we've discussed this in our caucus. We are going to take a very serious view of this. You can't be doing this with our taxpayers' money.
Okay. Anyway, but your side, you must be taking advantage of the fact that there's no running mates. You have a running mate, you are set, you are cruising, and they are delaying in getting their act together, so to speak.
Well, we take the view very honestly that the level of abysmal performance, the betrayal of the Ghanaian people, when you look at all the promises made, from fighting corruption to improving the economy, Bawumia was presented as an economic whiz kid. You know, a few days ago, I was listening to an interview by Kojo, by Ohenin To, pardon me, who said that he was then Deputy General Secretary when Bawumia was presented. And Nana Akufo-Addo said the reason why he needs Bawumia is because of his economic prowess. We know that subsequently, when the NEC accepted him and he was presented to Ghanaians, President Akufo-Addo told us that he doesn't have strength in economics. And so he's bringing him so that at the time, the CD, which was going for what? It was at the time...
Less than 4 cedis to a dollar.
Less than 4 cedis to a dollar. Now look at where it is. Way gone past 15, you know, and all indications are that if care is not taken, it may get to 20 by the end of the year. We have a situation where
for 20 there, we pray it should never get any close there.
We all pray. For the first time in our country's history, we are going through a domestic debt exchange program. Never happened. Never happened. At the time, the only time we have a hyped economic messiah in charge of the economic management team, we have been forced to take financial haircuts. All of you. No Ghanaian has been exempted. Yeah. Even if you are as bad as I am, you are forced to take the haircut, you know, on a lighter note. You know, so we take the view that no matter who is brought as running mate, the mess, the rot, the betrayal, the anger of Ghanaians, that running mate will not save the ticket. This MPP government must leave immediately, without delay, so that this country will be rescued from the current mess.
Dr. Theo Champong is a political risk analyst. Thank you, Doc, once again for making time to join us. And what do you say? I have a message from one of the towering, you know, CSO leaders, very respected, and he says that if the mate is such a powerless job, why is the driver having such a hard time choosing a mate? Is the car owner dictating to the driver who he should choose as his mate? And you may have read Professor Kwesi Anke's piece where he feels that Bawumia is being stampeded, and he calls him, he says, poor Mahmoud, the sad plight of a happy man. And then he calls on the party elders to take control and rein in those who are doing the posturing and insisting that you must choose this, you must choose that. And some actually say, if you don't pick our choice, there will be hell. You know, hell will break loose in the party. And now it's become almost something he cannot do anything about, that he must pick from Ashanti region.
Yes, good morning, Samson, to Mr. Sami and to Ghanaians, and it's always a pleasure to be here. You didn't add my other hat, which is the economic side. People would think you're just...
We'll get there. For this purpose, political risk analyst.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. No, I don't think it's a powerless job. And I read Professor Yanke's piece earlier in the week, and I think, yeah, it's absolutely spot on in terms of the pressure that is at bear on, you know, the vice president, now flag bearer of the ruling NPP, to make a choice as to who would partner him in the election. And you've seen a lot of demands that have come through from various pressure groups within the party and other, you know, members regarding who they would prefer to partner the man. I think from where I sit and the people that I've spoken to and all, it looks as though the choice has already been made, right? And it's just a question of when that will be communicated to Ghanaians. I've seen the NIB poll as well, and I'll come to some of the issues around that in terms of the timing, and I align with some of the points that Sami has actually made. You know, should we or should our security agencies be wasting their time, you know, conducting such polls when there are bigger issues of terrorism to fight? But if you actually look at the people that they polled, so these are the party grassroots, and you asked an extremely important question earlier, which is that, the desires of the party, in this case here, you're getting almost 8 in 10 of the people they polled wanting the energy minister, Matthew Pokupempe, as the running mate, versus the desire of Ghanaians. How do you actually square that? So, for example, you look at the report, and it talks about they want charisma, they want someone who has popularity amongst the party members or the grassroots, and can also drive, to an extent, party unity. I did not see also too much about the extent to which the candidate would also kind of complement, right, the ruling or the running mate, and what other things that they bring to the table. Because I think it's quite important, because you would see that if you actually poll Ghanaians as a sample group in terms of what they actually want from a running mate, versus if you poll from amongst the party itself. So this is a tough sample. You may get that the differences and the aspirations are quite different in that extent. And that leads me to actually quite an important point, which is that strategically, right, from the point of the MPP, is it then the case that, well, going into this election, we have to focus on our core grassroots, the people that we can get them to turn up, to vote, especially given the issues that have happened with the economy, the exchange rate, and the cost of living and all of that. So if you assume, right, of argument's sake, that you want to tap into your voter base and therefore not get a lot of people being apathetic, as we saw in 2008, then it may make sense with the choice that ultimately they would decide to actually go right with. If, on the other hand, we run or make an assumption again that, well, you actually need the middle class voters, you need them to be up and running and then to vote for you, then again, that is where you then will see some differences between the desires or the aspirations of the party people versus the broader aspirations of Ghanaians. So for me, I don't envy the vice president at all. It's a difficult choice that he's got to make. I think they need to give him room to make that choice. I would be surprised if that decision has already not been made, and then we'll see, that being communicated.
But in politics, that they say one day can make a lot of difference in politics. And Professor Kwesi Yankah asked this question: are we shifting the goalpost for a Teni flag bearer? Have the rules changed? No. It's rather the times. Tribalism has returned in another clock. The great party has elders who should step in and boldly put the house in order. Huge gains made in the past year may dissipate in thin air should the choice of running mate be foisted on Mahmoud Bawumia. The message should be simple. The party will respect their flag bearer and not denigrate his person or preference. Mahmoud should not be reminded of his status as a Teni and made an exception to prevailing rules. Having been duly elected as flag bearer, he has the right to even say, quote, I have made a decision. It's one or even none of the above. The open campaign for running mate, public name dropping, blackmailing, and veiled display of tribalism must stop.
Yeah, no, Prof is right. I think I would characterize it a little bit, actually saying it's regionalism, right? And there's a lot of academic literature to point to the fact that regional coalitions of factors play an extremely important role in Ghanaian elections. And I think also for the MPP, it's almost become an obvious choice, as the fact that the running mate is going to come from the Ashanti region, which is where they get the biggest chunk of their votes from, if you look at the regional split or regional kind of vote share. So again, it goes back to the point I made earlier. Do you play to your strength, which is where you're getting the most of your votes coming from, but also given that there have been issues with the economy and all of that, so you actually want the people that, you know, aspire to your party ideals, but that also translates into actual votes and results on the day to come up for you. I think we've been in this space for a while, and it's been communicated, at least within, you know, the media space, that the running mate choice is going to come from the Ashanti region and nowhere else. So if you go with that, then it becomes, you know, a question of who best comes from that region that allows them, you know, to get the vote.
All right,
but then
very
yes,
quickly.
you do get some of the sentiment coming through in some of these, you know, veiled threats, so to say, that if you don't choose my particular person, then, you know, we won't vote for you and things like that. That is something that we must all condemn.
All right. Now, in some 30 seconds, has the NPP delayed in naming their running mate?
I think to an extent you could argue that there's been a bit of a delay.
And how will that affect them, if any at all?
I don't think that it will make a material difference to the outcome of the election, because it's really a question of, you know, who is the running mate, and then the issues that we're dealing with, the economic issues that we're dealing with, play a much bigger, you know, role.
Right. And from where you sit, should they be more influenced by what sections of Ghanaians think, rather than party executive think is the person to be their running mate?
Oh, I think so, yes. Definitely the latter, right? Because it's Ghanaians that are going to vote at the end of the day. The party people are a subset of Ghanaians. So it would have been more interesting for me if, for example, this NIB poll had actually polled, call it Ghanaians, ordinary Ghanaians, and what their thoughts are on who is the party. But quickly before we go, I think we also have to make the point about this whole NIB business. You know, I think it amounts to abuse of office to an extent, that if the party really wants to conduct poll and even poll its members, there are people, the organizations out there that can do that for them.
And they have been doing that anyway.
The optics don't look good. I've heard people make argument that, oh, but in the past, similar polls and things have been made. But if you actually look at the mandate of the NIB, and Samir read aspects of the law, vis-a-vis what's actually been done here, I struggle to actually reconcile the two. You know, what is the national security interest in all of this in terms of this polling?
All right.
It makes sense.
Thank you very much. Professor Alidu Seidu, Head of Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, he thinks differently. He says the survey is relevant. The NIB is supposed to be proactive in advising the government on national security matters and potential security threats. The selection of a running mate who will potentially be the Vice President of the Republic should be of national security concern. Making it public is concerning. I'm not sure it was meant to sway opinions towards a particular candidate or not. You can't be sure about this.
Samson, I mean, the professor's view, I share in part.
Okay.
But I'm not so sure whether there's any indication that this was officially sanctioned. Okay. Either by the presidency or the executive or the office of the flag bearer.
Or a candidate.
Or a candidate. I'm not so sure. And I don't hold brief for National Intelligence Bureau. I'm sure they can speak for themselves. And I'll urge my good friend, as he's indicated, that he's going to hold a National Security Minister to come and provide the answers.
All right.
But you see...
We're not doing another round.
No,
just very quick.
Just a quick one.
Move on to.
Sami expresses strong reservation about use of public funds.
Yeah.
He's all of a sudden forgotten about Cambridge Analytica, where they used 6 million of a loan that had been contracted to build hospitals to conduct election survey for the NDC in 2016. All of a sudden. That's the kind of hypocrisy that we should discourage from our politicking.
You're saying that
you were part of that government.
State funds.
State loans that have been contracted.
Okay.
Really? I'm hearing this for the first
time.
You
are hearing this for the first time?
Yeah.
Samson, you don't know Cambridge Analytica.
I don't know that state funds were used.
Loan, NMS, loan that were contracted for hospitals.
Loans approved by Parliament? I'm hearing this for the first time.
You hear it for the first time.
And you have not exacted accountability from whoever.
You're a member of Parliament. In fact, the special prosecutor is not taking action on it. The special prosecutor actually even conducted an investigation.
And what was the outcome?
I'm not aware of what the outcome is, but I'm saying to you that during Mr. Mohammed's time,
I will support you.
Samson, you don't know Cambridge Analytica.
I really want to understand.
You haven't heard of Cambridge Analytica before.
I've heard that.
And what did they do? They conducted election survey for the NDC.
The question here.
With which money?
Here. Oh, okay.
With which money?
So for as long as they conducted survey for them, they had used state funds.
That's what they used to pay them. The money that they had contracted.
So you are speculating or you are stating a fact?
I'm stating as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Through public documents. I'll show you the publication. Your own network.
Yeah.
Joy News.
Right.
Published it. Okay.
What did they publish?
Wait. Will you take your time?
Yeah.
Take your time.
You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as we always do, we put Ghana first. Andrew Ejapamesa is the one speaking now. Earlier, you heard Samuel Okudzeto Blakwa and also Dr. Theo Echampong. Yes, Ejapamesa is trying to help us with some evidence of the claim he just made that state funds or loans taking by the state were used by the NDC.
Ghana Web report, NDC blows 175 million hospital cash on election survey.
Okay.
16th October 2018. Details have started emerging about how former President John Mahama and the SWAL NDC administration diverted a whopping 6 million out of a loan to construct hospitals to fund this 2016 electioneering campaign. You are in this country, you have never heard the story. Joy FM, which publicized the scandal yesterday, said the research was a subcontract under the 175 million project awarded British infrastructure company NMS for the construction of 7 district hospitals and an integrated information technology system. The 6 million cash for the survey was disclosed during the parliamentary approval of the loan, raising questions about its propriety. According to the report, this research was conducted by UK-based SCL Social, the mother company of Cambridge Analytica.
Okay. So this report.
So what are we talking about?
This report becomes the first basis to support the claim that you are making. Okay.
Look, I've said I'm not holding brief for the National Security, National Intelligence Bureau. Let them answer.
All right.
Whether this was part of. I've seen some rationale that the professor provided.
Okay.
I'm not so sure whether that is entirely accurate based on the.
Because if they would do that, then they should do it across board and not do it for the governing parties. And that's what I've said, that I'm not
primaries. Sure even this was sanctioned by the flag bearer or by the government. I do not know. And I cannot sit here to pretend to know.
Okay.
But
but as people in government,
so-called strong reservation.
As people in government,
what are we talking about?
Do you have any aversion to that? What they have done?
If it's not within their mandate, speaking for myself, I don't think that it's something that they should have done. In any event, I have said that the exercise in itself, to the extent that it creates an impression of some pressure on the vice president, I do not support.
Okay. You think you would have said the same thing, this would have been your position if you were in opposition and the NDC was in government and this was done?
How else would you think I would describe this position that I've had?
I suspect you'd have been saying what Okudzeto said, what Dr. Theo Echampong said.
But I said I do not support
the
work that the National Intelligence Bureau has done.
But you will not
condemn. And I've asked him that if he says you cannot exact accountability from public institutions on Joy FM Newsfile.
You can. It's part of the.
No, I'm coming.
It's part of the accountability mechanism.
So how are you going to hold that?
The media is actually a critical part of the accountability mechanism.
How are you going to ask the critical persons involved? Okay. He said that he's going to Parliament.
Okay, so let's not relitigate this. Franklin Kujo says that the survey report by the NIB is even poorly done. We should ask for a refund. Bawumia should ignore the conclusions. But he also notes that he saw same survey report done by the BNI or the intelligence unit during the NDC days. That's why I was asking, you earlier that there was nothing new about this, because something tells me that this is not new.
Well, except that those who are saying it's not new have not provided the report.
Okay.
If you say you saw it, you should provide it. I, to be very honest with you, have not seen the previous BNI carry out this kind of survey. Look, and even if they did it in the past, it doesn't make it right now. I always insist that let's mature as a country, let's grow as a country, let's think about the national interest. This attempt to just be static, and we are actually now descending into the abyss with this politics of equalization. This SML $6 million thing, as a member of the NDC, I have not attended any NDC Congress where we pass a resolution that money for hospitals, we are going to divest $6 billion. And I have signed to it, said, yeah, we agree, go and do it. So why should I be here to defend it? If there's any NDC person who did this, if this report, I'm hearing this for the first time.
Okay.
What are the investigative and prosecutorial bodies doing?
But it should be important that the special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, started this in 2018. This kind of, because this is the first time this came up. So we are in 2024.
Yes. 2024.
We should know what the outcome is.
Exactly. $6 million is a lot of money.
Right.
So leaving these matters hanging doesn't help. And then quickly, Samson, let me also, as somebody who has really followed Nkrumah, Pan-Africanist, was excited about how our politics began in this country. I must condemn the degeneration. This regionalism, ethnocentrism, tribalism, when it comes to positions, a person must come from a particular region. Look, I pray for the day that all these things won't matter. Look at where Kwame Nkrumah came from, to be a member of parliament in a greater Accra constituency. Celebrated days. These days, they'll say, oh, you're a stranger. You're a foreigner. Back off. We don't want you. Why should people in the Ashanti region or the Volta region or Northern region celebrate a candidate, support a candidate, only because that candidate comes from their region, their home region is one of them? It's a degeneration. We are decaying as a country. This kind of politics, look, I don't care if two frafra people, president and vice, but they are competent, they love the country, they are incorruptible, they are visionary, and they are delivering. I wouldn't care that I don't see a fellow Voltarian on the ticket. So we are playing to these, very debased sentiments and promoting it. And we have to be careful. Because we have 16 regions, multiple religions. You can't always satisfy all of these dynamics. We shouldn't be goading these things on. It's a total degeneration of our politics. Right. And I'm appalled by it. Look, in this country, if you look at even the history of Islam and their best moments, when they were able to get holidays and all of that.
Okay.
We didn't have a Muslim on the ticket. When President Rawlings passed all these holidays, declared all these holidays, and gave inclusivity to Muslims.
All right, we didn't
need to have a Muslim as president or vice for us to have all of these gains.
Okay.
So let's condemn this degeneration. I'm really worried about it.
As we are referred to this particular report, with the special prosecutor commence investigations into the diversion of fund, the diversion of loan diversion to fund NDC research. So actually, and I want to read a portion of this report. It says that the Special Prosecutor, Martin Amidu, has requested for further evidence after joint news investigations revealed loans were diverted to fund political research. His office is likely to open preliminary investigations into the issue after studying the evidence to be supplied by Joint News in the next 24 hours. Joint News investigations uncovered how part of a $175 million loan contracted to build 7 hospitals in Ghana was diverted into the research. The research details a discrete work on political and health survey by UK-based SCL Social, the mother company of Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica, a data analytics firm, used personal information harvested from more than 50 million Facebook profiles without permission to build a system that could target US voters with personalized political advertisements based on their psychological profile. But in Ghana, its other company, SCL Social, was contracted by the Health Ministry under the Mahama administration to test the attitude, quote, test the attitudes and perceptions of the population towards contemporary issues faced in Ghana, end quote. Okay, right, so we take a break here. When we return, we are going to Handsoff Our SNIT Hotels demonstration and asking the question whether the petition to the president by the demonstrators led by Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa will change anything. We'll be right back.
This land, the hotels, what is important is that the allodian landowners must be given equity share in this hotel. There's nothing wrong with giving 30% of the equity shares of all these hotels to the allodian landowners. And therefore, if you are going to sell it, sit down with them, think about it. Now, what is the benefit to our people?
We need to tell the government that any land belong to La Gadangwe, they should never dare. They should give our land to X. We don't want problem with you.
Which land specifically are you talking about?
Chado, Trade Fair, the OTEX, Beach Pump License Office. Here. They have been sold to somebody. Tilly. Government collaboration with the Land Commission. And this kind of Land Commission, they are bogus so far so good.
The Deputy Chief of Staff, Emmanuel Edumwa Bosman, received the petition and said government will study it and get back with feedback.
We want to keep in the spirit of democracy. As you know, this year is an election year. We want to do everything in a clean, peaceful, and calm manner. So I've received this petition on behalf of the President. I'll submit same, and I can assure you that it will be looked into and the appropriate measures taking place as and when it is deemed fit and proper to do so. Thank you so very much.
To the allodian landowners. And therefore, if you are going to sell it, sit down with them, think about it. Now, what is the benefit to our people? Have you thought about it? Who is going to take over? How much is the hotel sold? What procurement processes do they follow for a sitting member of parliament and a sitting minister of state to benefit from information that is sacred for anyone to contest for procurement processes? This is a violation of ethical rules.
And we will never sit down to let this happen. Ghanaian youth, this is the time. This is the time. Don't sit back and say, it is really important that we all see the importance for we to come together and fight against this oppression.
Right, so a cross-section of Ghanaians hit the streets to demonstrate, asking that the persons who are politically exposed, who are seeking to take an interest in state-owned, SNIT hotels should back off. There is Bryan Champon, whose hotel, Rock City, has been in the lead in this process. And there's also Freddie Blay's son, who is also in the process for the beachfront, which some say is a bizarre circumstance in the manner in which it's being done. So, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is here, Demon Investigations Limited. So he brought up this matter to the public sometime last month, and this whole discussions began. You have petitioned Shraj. The question that is being asked is, why go on the streets after petitioning Shraj?
Well, thank you very much, Samson. Let me begin by commending the thousands of Ghanaians who took time off their busy schedules to demonstrate. It reflects a certain revulsion, a certain strong condemnation of what is transpiring before us. State capture, public officials who are engaged in clear conflict of interest transactions. I want to salute the chiefs of Ga and La for coming out in their numbers. I was really surprised to see them. Hardly do you see chiefs participate in demonstrations. They would normally just give a blessing and hope that the youth will take on the charge. But in this case, they participated themselves from beginning to the end, led by the Lahba Wulomo of La, Ni Yamu Obroni, the 7th of La, revered Wulomo and all his chief priests who poured libation, asked for the blessing of our ancestors. I want to also celebrate organized labor for joining us, TUC, the Ghana Federation of Labor, the Nurses and Midwives Association, all the political parties, the NDC, the CPP, the PNC, who all came out in their numbers, the Honorable Fifi Kwete and
Arise Ghana.
Executives, Arise Ghana, the Ghana Action Network. I want to celebrate all of them, including the youth groups, the Coalition of La Youth Associations, the United Gadangbe Caucus, all of those who came out in their thousands to send a clear message to President Akufo-Addo that we demand that he puts an end to this transaction. It is not in the national interest. And I am glad, Samson, that nobody can accuse me in particular of just waking up to this threat. 16 years ago, I went to the Supreme Court.
You have been accused already that you have been asleep during your tenure by your friend here.
Yes,
that's
clearly
you just woke up to activism.
I mean, it is shocking.
He went in abeyance when he was in government.
It is shocking that he will say that because he knows very well, and he's read all the law reports, I believe, and he knows that in a 6-3 decision, even though I lost, but to the credit of the likes of Atuguba and Sofa Akufu, who later became Chief Justice, they predicted that we will be where we are today, that their colleagues should take a broader view and a nationalistic approach towards this canker. If the Supreme Court, in that case where Jacob Echebilamte sought to purchase his bungalow, because I argued that, look, under the Constitution, if you acquire land and you have a different use of it, it's no longer going to be used as a bungalow for public officials. You now want to make it a private property. You should give it out. And the clear conflict of interest situation. If all ministers before him were buying their bungalows, there will have been none left. You know, but here we are today. We're talking about SNIT divesting itself of 60% of its shares in. We started at 6 hotels, again in a bizarre and total mutilation of our procurement laws. It moves from 6 to 4, where 4 of the juiciest hotels in the pack are picked. We are saying that this is a clear case of conflict of interest under Article 284 and 287 of the Constitution. We are also saying that the conflict of interest safeguards provided under Articles 78 and 98 of the Constitution, where public officials, MPs, ministers, must go through a process, go to the committee of members holding office. Let the committee really look into your transactions, what you intend to do, to be sure that you will not be caught in a conflict of interest situation.
Yes, the provision says, Article 98, Clause 2, a member of Parliament shall not hold any office of profit or emolument, whether private or public, either directly or indirectly, unless permitted to do so by the Speaker acting on the recommendations of a Committee of Parliament on the grounds that A, holding that office will not prejudice the work of a Member of Parliament, and B, no conflict of interest arises or would arise as a result of the member holding that office. And in Article 78, Clause 3, this is repeated to cover ministers.
Excellent. So in the case of the Honorable Bryan Champong, he's both an MP and a minister, and he's caught under those two provisions. Diligent checks at the Committee of Members Holding Profit revealed that he's not one of 47 MPs and ministers who went through this requirement. So does not have a certificate from the Speaker to hold an office of profit. And that is why we have gone to Shraj. Now you ask, you've gone to Shraj.
He says he's a non-executive whatever of the company, even though he's the sole shareholder.
He's a sole shareholder, he's the sole beneficial owner, and he's one of two directors. He has not relinquished his interest in the company. I did a diligent check. I have all the articles of incorporation from the Registrar of Companies. Okay. So he cannot run away from that. All profits will come to him. Now, Article 284 of the Constitution is very clear. A public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. So you see the standard very high, conflicts or is likely to. And in the classic case of Anani, where this provision really was tested, you know, Shraj delivered a very, very profound decision. And I want to read from page 21 of that Shraj decision in the Anani case. And this is Anna Bosman. The commissioner has held that a public official breaches this provision, not only where there is actual conflict of interest, but also where there is a likelihood of conflict of interest, where there is already in existence a personal relationship between a public officer and another person, or between their respective institutions or companies. There is an onerous responsibility on the public officer to ensure that all future transactions between the two persons or institutions are conducted with utmost transparency and in such a manner as to avoid suspicion of any improper motive or conduct, unquote. You know, so even suspicion, even if it is indirect, even if it is likely, you know, so these matters, when it comes to good governance, when it comes to transparency, accountability, it's a high test. And that is why we have gone to Shraj. Now, the reason why we are still agitating is because you and I know that Shraj does not have injunction powers. After we went to Shraj on the 17th of May, we intercepted further documents that they were proceeding to do final due diligence under this transaction. And that if care is not taken, we will be presented with a fait accompli. And it wouldn't matter the Shraj decision. You remember even in the Domelevo case, you and your colleagues, civil society, went to court. But by the time the court decision came many months after, Domelevo had been removed. That victory, I don't know how you call that kind of victory, Domelevo could not be reinstated and all of that. We do not want that situation because we know that this government has the tendency to act in impunity. Ideally, with the Shraj petition, everybody should back off. But organized labor were told to go and meet the employment minister and the SNIT board by the president. Surprisingly, when they went for those meetings, it was an attempt to convince them to accept this transaction. So we are continuing with these agitations so that the president and
I thought there's rather a meeting for Tuesday.
Yes, but
next Tuesday.
To meet the president directly.
Okay.
The initial request was to meet the president. The president said that they should go meet the minister and the SNIT board. So I am glad that we continue with the agitations, and we've presented this petition, a 15-point petition, which was received by the Deputy Chief of Staff on behalf of the President. And our demands are very clear. We want the President to intervene and stop this sale. It's not in the national interest. Lardy Beach Hotel, as we all know, very, very profitable. We've put out the numbers. If you look at their gross profit of last year, 158 million. Operating profit, 58 million. They have declared 55 million. If you look at what they have in their accounts currently, cash in their accounts, is 58.4 million. Very, very profitable hotel. Even the hotels that are struggling, it is an issue of management. We are saying that stop the political appointments and engage a management company, employ the right people who can do a great job. If you employ the right people, in the case of Lardy, as we have seen, paying dividend to government 25 million cedis last year, we can have the success that we are all looking for. And these hotels built by workers' contributions can then help all of us. We are also saying that we want the president to commit that he will sign our private members bill, which Professor Kweku Azai and others are helping us put together, so that public officials will be expressly, because you know they are taking advantage of gray areas and all of that. And this has been going on for too long. And you see the state capture going on all over. I can produce documents here, which is really a worrying trend, and we need to end it. This has led...
Is it not belated? The Parliament has less than 6 months. Effectively, you have like some 5 months. And even the campaign periods, you can clearly see. Today, you can't marshal 92 people into the House.
Well, you have a point.
Why is it that after you were done with the Jacobiche Bilamte case in 2012, you didn't do this now that you are doing it?
Well, we thought that, you know, that also generated quite an uproar. There was an upheaval, and we thought that it will stop and public officials will be minded. But it clearly has reared its ugly head again, and now we want to deal with it once and for all. We believe that...
My point is that you can't get a private members bill through before this parliament rises.
Well, we have some 5 months. Let's see. We are confident.
Okay.
We are determined to work hard and achieve this.
I see. So let's come to this. What should the president be doing? SNIT is duly constituted, has a board. The Labadi Beach Hotel has a management. What should the president do? Say, forget all your corporate governance. I'm the president. I say, whether there has been a sale or not, whatever it is, just stop it. What kind of a president is that?
We are not asking the president to do anything which is untoward. The president, remember, at the end of the day, is in charge of all of these organizations. Remember that he appoints the board chair, he appoints majority. The president can actually dissolve this board. He has the final authority in these matters. The president, remember, is the one appointing the CEO of SNIT. That's why we have even said one of our demands is that they should all be fired for creating this mess.
One has already lost his job, and the suspicion is that it may have been because he had some opposition to this process.
Yes, very strong opposition. So the president can act. Despite the so-called good governance, best practices, do you know the president has been appointing MDs of these hotels directly, even without recourse to the board? He's been doing that. So in that same spirit, the president can put his foot down and stop this.
The president can, by a fiat, stop everything that the board has done.
Yes.
The two boards, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting proposition. Now, what exactly is wrong? Okay. Let me go to Ejapa Mensah now, and then we'll return to Okudzeto. What do you make first of the demonstration? The suggestion is that you have taken a petition to Shraj. That is an organized, established place where you can use proper due process procedures. Documents will be furnished there. And Shraj has actually begun the process by asking those who are involved to begin the process. What do you think?
I think that it has become apparent to the petitioner that the petition that is submitted to Shraj is not going to wash. Hence, he's finding other means to, as it were, create a certain impression and words he uses to the effect of state capture and all sorts of jargoneering. You see, the Anyenini case that he read was a specific allegation regarding Dr. Anyenini and an American lady and the relationship that they've had, pursuant to which he had used his office to award some contract to the lady. Right? That sat, if you like, on all fours with the provisions of the Constitution. Is that what is happening now? Has Mr. Bryan used this office as a minister to award any contract to any third party that is involved in, for which you can accuse him of conflict of interest? In any event, you see, I always say we overstretch the concept of conflict of interest in this country.
We do?
Absolutely.
Or that we rather,
because you see,
the opposite. We don't actually
appear
to appreciate it much.
Maybe the lack of appreciation is what
elsewhere they look at the actual, the potential, the apparent, and the potential.
I don't have any difficulty at all.
Okay.
We can look at all the levels. That still does not prohibit a public official in participating in a public transaction. To the extent that he makes appropriate disclosures and removes himself completely from the decision making, said that he doesn't influence it in any way. But what do we hear? That a minister for Agric, a member of parliament for Abetifi, owns a company publicly known. SNIT's board takes a decision to divest its interest in hotels, publishes an international competitive tender. The hotel or the company then submits to participate in the tender. Then all of a sudden, the minister's personality is what becomes the issue for conversation. And I hear people talk of don't sell profitable hotels and all sorts of things. I'm sure you've seen the SNIT documentation relating to the profitability and otherwise and the return that they are getting from these investments that they've had for in excess of 15 years. Yesterday, I had the benefit of being on Metro TV and I asked the host whether if he had money, he would put his money in banks that were returning 1.5% for his investment, that do not pay dividends for years. And I go to the point about previous decisions that SNIT had made. I'm not saying that it was wrong or right. I'm saying that consistently over the years, SNIT's board makes determinations as regards its investment appetite and what investment was given it return for the funds that they were managing. And so in 2011, it took a decision to initially put together Trust Bank, First Atlantic with EcoBank. At the time, I was working at First Atlantic Merchant Bank. We hadn't met the minimum capital requirements at the time. Trust Bank had met it. EcoBank, obviously, because it's a big boy, had sufficient enough capital. But SNIT took a decision that wanted to merge all the three. The only reason why First Atlantic was not part of that measure was because the chief executive at the time, Mr. Judata, had made a representation to the board of First Atlantic with SNIT representatives, in fact, shareholders of First Atlantic, that look, he does not object to First Atlantic participating in any measure. However, capitalize the bank so that the bank can go into those measure discussions on an equal footing with TTB and EcoBank. Samson, we had started the capitalization quest as far back as 2009. SNIT, the largest shareholder at the time, was never interested in putting any money in First Atlantic Bank anymore. But because of that representation, the next day they submitted a check to pay for additional equity in First Atlantic to enable them dispose of it to EcoBank. Coincidentally, we had engaged EM Capital, headed by Mr. Michael Shawn, to help us capitalize the bank. And they had submitted some investment proposal from Kedari nominees from Nigeria. That shareholders meeting, when they approved the acquisition of shares by SNIT, which would have taken them to 90% holding in the bank, also approved the Kedari transaction. And so, post that approval of those two investments, SNIT's stake reduced to less than 50%, such that they could not force the measure between First Atlantic, TTB, and EcoBank. That's why they went ahead to do the measure with only EcoBank and Trust Bank. And subsequently used the Bank of Ghana to hoodwink Kedari to buy SNIT out as part of the approval process, because significant shareholding, you need Bank of Ghana approval before your shareholding can be accepted. But it was an investment decision that SNIT had taken at the time, that they were no longer interested in investing in banks because it was not returning sufficient enough return, according to them, to the fund. Subsequently, in 2013, they did the same thing to Merchant Bank, where they sold SNIT's majority stake in Merchant Bank to Fortis. In 2020, 2022, 2023, they decide that, look, these hotels that we have significant investments in, per the document that they've issued, is not generating sufficient enough return to the fund. And so they were disposing of their interest, or at least a significant part of it, to a strategic investor, so that SNIT can reduce its risk in those hotels. They go through a public tender, and all of a sudden that becomes an issue. How consistent are we? In any event, Samson, I'm sure you contribute to the SNIT pension fund.
Of course.
I do as well. Samokuje told us, is it prudent for the contributions that we make to be invested in banks that are not paying any dividends to our fund? And at the very least, if they were making a return of 1.5%, you will support the board of SNIT to keep holding that investment and keep putting money in it? I certainly will not.
The suggestion is you don't have to sell. You don't have to divest your interest.
So what do you do?
What you do, change course,
change
management.
Haven't they in the past and yielded no result?
So something is certainly wrong.
Absolutely. But what are they doing?
If a private investor can see the profits in the entity that is going downhill, then there's something good in there.
I agree. I happen to work in the public service now, coming from a private sector background. The attitude is completely different. And so what has the board decided to do? Are they disposing of all the SNIT's interest in the hotels? Are they? They are shedding off 60% to reduce their exposure. Because for 15 years, and bring a private sector player who will bring that kind of private sector attitude to ensure that they generate the requisite return for you and I, the fund owners. It becomes an issue.
What does 60%?
The only issue,
60% for the private investor render you in the scheme of things?
It gives you a return if they make profit. And the private investor, because they are minded to ensure that the investment generates the requisite profit that we are not getting in the public space. And that is what has informed all the state-owned assets that have been disposed of during the tenure of previous governments, including the NDC, primarily. But it's Bryan Achampon. So all hell must break loose.
But this is not new, though. In 2013, you remember, Anyenini.
So let's admit, I agree.
Anyenini was in the presidency working for
not a problem at all.
When Merchant Bank came up, for sale, Anyenini was against it. He went even to the courts. Yeah.
So it goes back to the issue that this is nothing but politics. Pure and simple. It has nothing to do with the interest of SNIT or the pension fund holders. It has nothing to do with anything but the personality of Bryan Achampon, who is acquiring that asset, who happens to be an MPP member, who hasn't breached any law, either constitutional or otherwise. That is the only basis for all this noise.
He hasn't breached any law.
What law has he breached?
The provisions of the Constitution.
Show me. Show me.
He needs a certificate of the Speaker.
Very good.
To do a job for emoluments.
You see?
And we understand he doesn't have a certificate.
Where says who? I don't have a problem. Where's the recourse?
You were saying
Oh, I'm coming. Where is the recourse to charge? Read chapter 24, article 287. An allegation that the public officer has contravened or has not complied with the provision of this chapter. It's only a 3-page chapter, chapter 24. The article 98 that he makes reference to. You can only go to the speaker to lodge a complaint.
I've talked about 284. I went to Shraj because of 284. 287 is the forum, which is Shraj.
Wait.
Yes.
284 says a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest. Has Bryan Achampon put himself in any position relative to this transaction that his personal interest is conflicting with the performance of his public office? Is he a Minister for Finance? Is he the board? Is he on the board of SNIT?
He's not at cabinet.
Thank you very much. Is it a cabinet decision? Have you seen any cabinet memo relative to this transaction that SNIT board has submitted this transaction to cabinet for approval and Bryan Achampon participated in the decision?
You're not sure.
Have you seen it? You see? Look, Samson, I'm coming. Oh, please. You see? So he says it's going to charge under Article 284.
And 287.
And I'm saying that 284 can only be relevant in that other case that you read, where Bryan Achampon, in this case, if he was contracting as minister with a third-party company that he had an interest in, then you could properly found an allegation of conflict of interest against him. That is what the procedure that is spelled out in 287 says. That when anybody breaches a provision of this chapter 24, go to Shraj. But I'm saying that because you yourself realize that Bryan has not breached any 284 provision, strictly so-called, you are bringing in 98. And I'm saying that 98, if you say, and I'm not in a position to verify, he's breached it, your recourse is not to charge. And so you go and gather people and go and do demonstration and play NDC songs. So it's pure politicking. And use the tag that suits them. State capture. Where is the state capture in this? Then I go back to ask, when you were selling those entities in the past, was it state capture? He says he started his activism in 2008, but it went underwater between 2009 and 2016 when he was in government, when all these transactions were taking place. If you had the interest of the pension holders at heart, why did you not object to the sale of these assets to whoever? Because from what I hear, if he says that it's not personalizing the issue because it's Bryan Achampon who is involved, then the principle is that all these assets ought not be sold, whether they are making profit or not. But is that even a legitimate basis to proceed?
The OECD's guidelines on questions of conflict of interest, which assists many nations to do what they have to do, and which I suppose also influences the code of conduct for public officers done by the Shraj in 2006, defines conflict of interest as, it says, a conflict of interest involves a conflict between the public duty and private interests of a public official, in which the public official has private capacity interests which could improperly influence the performance of their official duties and responsibilities.
Yes.
There's a potential of the prospective, if it's not now, if it's not actual. You don't see that here. That
you tell me. Maybe I'm blinded.
Okay.
And so use the provisions that you've outlined eloquently and relate it to Bryan Achampon, specific, relative to this transaction, and tell us. I'm happy to concede. But I've read the provisions. I've read the Constitution. I've looked at the transaction, the facts as put out there. It has no connection whatsoever to the performance of his personal duty, his public duty, to even ground an allegation of conflict of interest on his part.
If you ask my view, I'll say my view of conflict of interest, the way I translate it, I see it as a principle that is actually enunciated in the scriptures, in the Bible, where it says, abstain from all appearances of evil.
I agree.
All appearances.
Not a problem at all.
Just the appearance of it.
Not a problem.
Because that is actually conflict of interest.
So what appearance of evil do you see in this transaction, that public, that the facts as we know it?
So for the public, the members who went...
I'm not talking of the public.
No. For the public, the members who went on the street, the chief in, is it Edina, who spoke against this long before, and also this Wulomo who joined, those people, it appears to me their thinking is that once you are in government, you are an MP, you are a minister, and you have a company which you are the sole owner, you should not be participating in the purchase of a state property for, and some agree, some say, for a price less than what some think could have actually been the price. And that your job is to protect the public interest. So if you sit in cabinet and there's something going wrong with SNIT and how it is investing for pensioners and for all of us, your approach should not be to buy what they are doing. Rather, see how you can use that to get the profit for the public, rather than seeking to get a profit for yourself.
You see, they could be right. But is that the law? It could be. And yesterday, I happened to be on a program with Sami Okudzeto. He says he's promoting a private members bill. Because obviously, in his own view, the law as presently constituted does not address the peculiar situation that we seem to find ourselves in.
Yeah, that's a clear admission. But
I don't
must
have
we reduce everything to law and leave out morality?
I don't have what's the issue of morality? And by whose standard? In any event, the bastardization of the individual involved, as if he's committed some crime, that he is using his office to capture some asset of the state. Is that factual?
Okay. So you've been speaking for almost 20 minutes now. This is what I'm going to do. We have to take another break, but I need to bring in Okudzeto again. And then Dr. Theo Champon, hold on there. I'll come to you. He's asking, what wrong has Bryan done as the sole single shareholder of the Rock City, hotels, which appear to be doing very well. And of course, it's a business interest of going concern. So they must be interested. And you just mentioned, was it yesterday or so, as I was following you, about when he was saying, if you're able to prove some of the claims you are making about their tax issues, he will dash you a certain Akosombo hotel or so. And you say that's also another revelation that he's bought that hotel too. So he's a business, he's expanding. What should stop him? He says, once he started in 2018 thereabouts and 2019, it's a business that he's doing, and he should be allowed to carry out his business for as long as he's not infringing any law. That's the point that Japan Mensa is making.
Nobody has said that the Honorable Bryan Champon should not do business. When he was building Rock City, did you hear anybody protesting? He's buying private hotels, announcing them regularly. Who has protested? There's been a lot of red herring and deliberate ad hominem fallacy that the Japan Mesa has engaged in this morning. This issue is not about SNIT selling. That's not what this issue has been about. This issue is fundamentally a conflict of interest matter. We are saying that public officials should stay away from the purchase of state assets.
He tells you there's no law against that.
All this, it is not for him to determine. That's why I've gone to Shraj. If the Constitution thought that members of Parliament who are lawyers could be the final say, the Constitution will have said that. The Constitution says the forum is Shraj. He's not the Shraj commissioner. He doesn't have a final say on this matter.
But that's a fact, right? That the law does not prohibit a public official from participating in public transactions.
But the law provides mechanisms. What you must do, go through a particular committee, get a certificate from the speaker. The Honorable Brachampo has confirmed on this station that he hasn't done any of that. He spoke on the Super Morning Show.
He's showing you the remedy for that.
He hasn't done any of that.
The remedy for that.
Article 284 says that don't have any semblance. Look, everything can appear okay, but would not be expedient. Article 284 is clear. Directly or indirectly, even the possibility in the future.
That's right.
You know, and I have read what the commission has held when it comes to conflict of interest. It's a very high bar. Public officials, I'm not aware of any country in this world where they practice good governance, where public officials who are taking the decisions about the sale of these assets are allowed to buy these assets from their colleagues. And you have a colleague cabinet minister who comes here to defend his colleague.
I don't want to be interrupting you, but he's pointing you to the conflict of interest rules, which includes disclosure, recusal,
and
sometimes at worst, resignation.
And he has not provided any evidence that those rules have been complied with.
And you have not provided any evidence that those rules have been infringed.
I have.
That he participated in the process in a manner that he's conflicted.
I have. Have you read the full Shraj petition? Right from the beginning, what you must do as a public official, if you are MP, if you are minister, I've provided evidence that he hasn't complied with that under Article 78 and Article 98.
That's noted.
I have also provided evidence of insider dealing at Shraj.
Insider dealing?
Yes. I have also provided evidence of arm twisting. If you look at the case of Ridge Royal, how the 1st April 1999 resolution of the directors was flagrantly disregarded in this matter. I've provided all of that. I've provided evidence of how the procurement process changed, strangely, from 6 hotels to 4, leaving out Bawumia and Trust, the 2 hotels that were not really, juicy, if you look at the books, which should have necessarily mandated a fresh start of the procurement process. All of that has been provided to Shraj. I have also provided evidence of how this whole deal, no value for money is guaranteed. I have submitted to Shraj the memos from SNIT, including the valuation report, which revealed that these 4 hotels, after the procurement laws were mutilated and violated, and it was changed to 4, that 4 hotels should have, the fair market value should have been $121 million. I've provided evidence that the Honorable Brachampo is offering $61 million, just half the price. All of these matters will...
that amount
will be looked...
It's not upfront.
Yes, it's not upfront. It's over a 3-year period. You take the case of Elmina, for example. The valuation report says it should go for not less than $7.5 million. Brachampo is offering $2 million. You take La Palme Royal. The valuation report says that don't go below $47 million. He's offering $31 million. I've provided all of that. And I'm saying that this has all the characteristics, all the trappings of a powerful insider who is having his way. Then, to strengthen that point, I've also gone into a similar transaction when he purchased SNIT's 25% shares in the Grand Regency Hotel in Kumasi. According to the minutes I have submitted to Shraj, if you read the minutes carefully and the final offer of Rock City, the valuation report said that that 25% shares should be valued at 8.6 million Ghana cedis for 25% shares. Rock City refused to pay the fair market value. They refused, and only offered 7.4 million in installments. The Ghanaian worker was shortchanged by 1.2 million Ghana cedis. And that's what I call the unholy alliance between SNIT and Rock City. And I've made all of that case at charge. So you see a consistent pattern where value for money is not guaranteed, rules are not followed, procurement laws are breached, and there is total disregard, for due process. And others cannot compete. If you look at how the rules keep changing.
The evidence shows it was an open process. And eventually there were some 9 and eventually trimmed down to 6, competitors, so to speak.
Yes, SNIT has put out that report, and it's interesting when you look at the 6 shortlisted companies. Very, very interesting, which includes Spartan Ives, the same guys, the Blair brothers who have taken over the Labadi beachfront. They are in that 6 shortlists.
Freddie Blair has been explaining that to the media and asking the same questions. SNIT has a board. So what is all this hula baloo about? If the board finds that we are opening base for something and this is good for us and they take it, why are we up in arms?
Let me state here that Freddie Blair is board chair of GMPC. We seem to hear him more on the SNIT board than on GMPC. I wonder what his interest is. Is it because his sons are doing business at the beachfront, hijacked the beachfront?
In any case, that's also a matter in the courts.
Is it because they set up Spartan Ives, which sought to take over these hotels and is amongst the 6 shortlisted companies? His children are adults. He should allow his children to speak and stop distracting us. Look, if you even pay regard to organized labor's concerns in their May 20 statement, very revealing. Organized labor informs us that the original proposal of the sale of SNIT's interest in the 6 hotels was reduced to 4. We hold the view that this renders the whole process null and void, and this is the point I was making earlier. Then, organized labor is also revealing, you remember they have reps on the board, that the proposed payment terms have been varied from the original MOU based on the recommendation of the transaction advisor.
Abraham Kumsin is joining us. He's on.
And this is
Thierry Champong is also joining us.
And this is a transaction advisor. Don't forget, we have spent $500,000, $491,000 engaging. And if we won't take the advice, if their recommendation, the fair market value, will not be
the little
complied
point
with.
I need you to get to before I bring in these other guests is what has happened in the last few days. Bryan Champong has accused you of just peddling falsehood about Rock City's
filings at the GRA.
Financials as far as the GRA is concerned, and has dared you that you don't have any evidence. If you have them, show them. He's going to give you a gift of a house in Trazako, and even give you his hotel in Akosombo.
In Akosombo, yes, yes. So I listened to him.
Very briefly.
And he was categorical that I have nothing. I don't have the filings, and I have no documents from GRA. I'll give you a copy. These are the documents. I have all the filings. And yesterday on another program, I gave a copy to the Honorable,
I have it here.
to the Honorable Jafamesi. All his filings from 2021 to 2024. So he is wrong. And if you go through the filings, this is not a company which is in a better financial position than Labadi Beach Hotel. From if you look at 2021, 2021, they themselves went to the GRA and said that we don't expect to make profit in 2021. 2 years later,
that's not the same as a company making losses.
Yes, but so no profits. Then 2 years later, they said that, look, we had some 2 withholding tax credits. So give that to us. Just about 20,000 Ghana cedis for 2021. So no profits. You come to 2022, and 2022, no filings at all. This is a company coming to teach Labadi, Lapam & Co. best corporate governance.
So you are reading their
practices.
2022 filings and you say 2022 no filings.
Yes.
How do you say that?
Yes. So in 2022, according to the report we have here, and you will understand why I said that. So they didn't file returns for the whole year. Then after my expose, I'm going to Shraj on the 17th of May, 2024. A few days after, they rushed to Shraj on the 23rd of May, 2024.
They rushed to
GRA, pardon me. They rushed to GRA on the 23rd of May, 2024. And they said that, look, 2022, we didn't make profits. Then they go back, based on all the discussions going on in the country, on the same 23rd May 2024, and say that, look, actually, we think that you can process us for a liability of 383,000. And GRA imposes a penalty on them that for 2 years you didn't come to honor your tax.
So the 2022 filing,
was done.
Did you say plus 2021 or just 2022?
So 2022. So 2021 they did it in 2023, 2 years after.
Right.
Then 2022 they did it in 2024, 23rd May 2024. They were fined a corporate income tax penalty.
This coincided with after you have filed your complaint as Shraj.
Yes.
It could be a mere coincidence. You don't think so?
Mere coincidence. Interesting. And that they were very busy on the 23rd of May 2024 because for the 2024 as well, that is when they went to Shraj and GRA. Why do I keep saying Shraj? They went to GRA and asked that they alter their records. They do a debit adjustment, even though they had estimated that they will make losses in 2024. So you see, I mean, we wish Rock City well, but their records at GRA does not show.
Tell me this. Hold on a minute. There's something interesting here.
Yes.
The 2022 filing is done
in 2024.
In 2024 of May, is that?
Yes, of May, 23rd May 2024.
Okay, when did they put in their bid for the hotels?
Interesting. In March 2022.
March 2022.
Yes.
That would mean that they didn't have a tax clearance certificate.
Yes, they didn't have a tax clearance certificate.
Okay, so we need some explanation because I have sat on a procurement entity before as its lawyer. Yes. When we are going through the process, the first things we take and we disqualify tax clearance, SNIT, certificates, those things.
Yes.
This cannot be possible.
So they should have been disqualified ab initio. And all of this evidence is before Shraj. So we are waiting for the Shraj report. It will be revealing. Because how do you allow them to qualify for the process without a tax clearance certificate? They can't say that they relied on the 2021 one, because even the 2021 one, they filed in 2023 after the process. So what's going on here?
Okay.
And let me quickly debunk this claim that, look...
very quickly, because my other guests have been
SNIT is
on the line for a while.
Wants to save us. He's gone on a campaign of, workers should be concerned that we are not getting returns on our money. I have here an extract from the SIGA report. The worst performing SNIT investment is STC. STC has 80%, SNIT has 80% shares in STC. If you look at the SIGA report, in 2017, STC made a loss of 28.9 million. 2018, 18.1 million. 2019, 27.9 million. In 2020, 32.5 million. In 2021, 52.5 million. SIGA is reporting that STC is making losses. The hemorrhage there is at an average of 32 million Ghana cedis. If this is about, as Japan Mesa is claiming, if it is about SNIT wanting to save worker investments, they should have been starting from STC. But clearly, it's not profitable.
All right, so...
You don't have a Labadi...
The GRA too appears would have to answer some questions.
I know your guests have been waiting, but it's important.
Quickly.
Yesterday, I advised him. He didn't take it.
What did you tell him?
I told him that he should be cautious in putting people's integrity on the line when his facts can be questioned.
Okay. Let's question the facts.
Because, you see, thankfully, you are a lawyer. You made a categorical allegation on your program with Semijinfi that Rock City made losses in 2023. It turns out that Rock City has not even filed its annual returns for 2023. They have written to the GRA tax office, sought an extension for them to file their corporate accounts, where you see their profit and loss and the taxes that they pay.
You clearly are not reading the document.
Please, I will come there. And I will expose the deception.
Please don't interrupt him. Let's hear.
See,
you go ahead.
They've written a letter to the tax office to extend it to end of June. So they haven't filed for 2023. So how do you determine that they made losses in 2023? You go and take this document.
Here, he hasn't said they made loss. He points out that they indicated that they were not going to make profits.
Yes. Read page 1 of 14 of 2023. Read it.
You see?
They went to GRA.
I recall when he said it. I said
this whole
making profit is not the same as making profit.
Exactly.
You see, withholding tax credit form. Withholding tax credit form, 12 February, 8 March 2024. This is the select
20th April,
assessment year. February, withholding tax all through. You go to page 2, withholding tax. Is it profit and loss?
You give me one.
Go to 20th April 2023. I thought
Samson, withholding tax.
No.
Withholding tax.
Okay.
Withholding tax, page 3. Then you come.
Okay.
CIT, because the withholding tax, right, is what is used to offset whatever profits that you make. And so you look at the corporate tax income CIT totals, 543,791. He says this demonstrates that company has made losses. Go to the next page, PAYE. Then this is what they've paid January, February, March, and the total pay as you earn total for the up to May is 256. Then the next column, withholding tax.
Income tax, and you are talking about withholding tax.
Where is the corporate income tax? They have not filed their accounts for
entry
2020.
number 5.
Entry number what?
They went to the GRA.
Were you there? Does it say so?
Yes, 20th April.
That what?
Why? Are you?
Read it.
Are you blind?
Read it.
20th April 2023, the process returns for 2023, reference number C006446833R001. They told the GRA they anticipate that they will not make profit in 2023.
You can interpret this to mean
yes, that's what it means.
GRA.
Yes, that is what it is. That's what the entry is.
Thankfully,
read the document.
Not a problem. You can do your propaganda.
I mean, you keep shifting the goalposts.
Look,
first you say I have nothing.
Because
there are no
you
documents.
Look at it, you see withholding tax totals. You see value-added tax standard totals. This is the document that you are holding. NHIS Get Fund COVID-19 totals.
But the entry, clearly says it's not going to make profit.
It's not going to make profit.
That's what he's saying.
No,
which I say is not the same as making a loss.
Yes. Where does it say so? Unless I don't understand English. He says process returns for 2024. Does it say that I'm not making losses or I'm making profit? Is that the interpretation of these words?
That is it. That you will not make profit for the year.
Are you serious?
That's what it is. You haven't made profit for the first quarter. But you don't anticipate that you make profit.
In any event,
he speaks about the filing.
Yes.
He speaks about the filing which they went back to update. Where initially they said they were not going to make profit, and then went back and said, we think we are making something, so change that for us.
Okay. You are a corporate lawyer. You work with GRA. You work for companies that work with GRA. Every year they make an assessment of your taxes and apply it up front.
That's correct.
So you can't go assuming, and I'm not speaking to this because I don't have the facts.
Yeah.
So you can't go and challenge the assessment that they made that, hey, per my operations.
You certainly can.
Yeah, you can.
Does it show that you are profitable or unprofitable at that point?
Okay, that's a point
because you can only establish the profitability when they file their annual returns.
The company you speak for,
and they have not filed it.
Where did they get their tax clearance certificate to participate in the bid? Where did they get it from?
Ask the issuer, not me.
You are speaking for the
because tax clearance,
he raised an issue.
They pay taxes, pay as you earn.
Where is the tax clearance certificate?
VAT, all of it is in the document that he is holding. This document that he gave me yesterday, you can have a copy and glance through.
No, but he's pointing to in May when they filed 2022.
See.
And in 2021, which was filed in 2023. So the question is, at the time they were putting in the bid, did they have a tax clearance certificate, valid one for the period?
But if it was part of the eligibility criteria, then you expect that, look,
it is always standard. It's always tax, SNIT, they are always standard.
I agree.
Yeah. But we take them and we disqualify.
So for you and I, who only pay PAYE,
right?
If you go for a tax clearance certificate, it will indicate whether you've paid those your personal income taxes.
Right.
For companies that pay as you earn, who pay VAT, who pay NHIS, who pay all of that. They will indicate in the columns the taxes that you've paid on each item and for the period.
Only when you have filed your returns.
Oh,
in this case, you didn't file your returns.
But you see, withholding tax is filed monthly.
We are not being fair to our guests on the line.
Is filed monthly.
Okay.
Your profit, corporate income tax. I'm speaking to fact. And you know it.
Please don't interject him that way.
Corporate income tax returns is filed annually.
Yes. That's correct.
And I'm saying to you, for the record, that the assertion that you made on your show with Sami Jemfi that in 2023, Rock City made losses is false because they haven't even filed their
so that's the point you've already made. Let me go to the lines now. Mr. Abraham Kumsin. Sorry, gentlemen, hold on. Mr. Abraham Kumsin, thank you very much. And please pardon us for holding you on for a while. Briefly, we want you to tell us organized labor's position. Organized labor, what's your problem? You have a representation on the board. They have gone to meetings and agreed that we are, going to divest this much of our interest. The horses have bolted. You are now trying to shut the stable doors and stampeding the president to do what exactly?
Thank you, Samson. We want to thank Honorable Ablakwa. But we were deeply drunk. We were deeply drunk and we were asleep. Because our representatives, I blame them. And I'll continue to blame them for misrepresenting us. These discussions started from 2018. These sales started discussing from 2018. It was only after Honorable Ablakwa raised issues he went to shrug before some of us heard of it. But what the reps should be doing was to brief us about what goes on there at the SNIT board. And this very serious issue of selling of a strategic asset, and look at the location of this facility. You want to sell this out and you didn't bring this thing to our attention. Look, if we had heard of it, this demonstration that happened last week, it would have been just something. We have mobilized the whole country workers, including those in the informal economy, to hit the streets. Why? Why do you sell our assets? And look, I'm not even concerned about who is buying and all that. Yes, it's an issue. But why should we sell such assets? For what? For how much? If we know that Bryan has the capacity to run the SNIT facilities, why don't we employ him? We could have employed Bryan as the CEO to run the hotels for us. Because they can't complain, SNIT can't complain of money. Because look, every month, they need not go anywhere to go and look for loan or whatever. The inflow from the contributions just come in. If you are an employer and you default payment, you'll be in trouble. So the dues is coming. And so I don't see why they have challenge with capital. What is it? Look, we will have to make sure that the National Pensions Act itself is amended. Because we own SNIT. We own the SNIT. Government is not contributing a peso apart from the employees' contribution of...
May I remind you, when Anyenini felt that the merchant bank transaction was not above board and he felt that pensioners and contributors' interest was not properly represented, he went to the court and the court told him he was a busybody. He should just get out. If you have board members, let the people on the board deal with it. Do you think you can penetrate beyond the board representing your interests?
Yeah, you see, the judicial system is another problem, but I won't go there. But that's why we have 4 strong people on the board. So if you have any issue, look, maybe if I were there, the board would have been dissolved because I won't sit there for such decisions to be taken. Look, who can defend what? Me, I blame our people because otherwise, this defense from the government and why do we demonstrate all this, it won't come in. Because unfortunately, the MPs who were concerned about this very wicked deal came out. We should have even done it for them to even support us, not for them to even initiate. Because organized labor, we are not organized, as I see it. We are not. Because if we are organized, why do we sit down from 2018 that these transactions started to date? Before we are now seeing...
The president asked you to meet the minister over this matter. That meeting has been over. You guys don't appear to be satisfied. So he's going to meet you himself on Tuesday. What again? What do you want?
He himself wasn't aware about this. The minister was even questioning our representatives on the board. That, well, you guys, you have been involved all these years from 2018 up to now. Why didn't you raise issues? You didn't talk about it. Why now? The minister himself, like, found out from him. What is this?
So what do you think the president can do on Tuesday when you meet him? What do you think he can do?
The president, what we expect him to do is to stop, because like Honorable Abraham said, SRAG hasn't that powers to injunct. Otherwise, you have to stop the whole process for us to sit down and really know what is going on. But my fears are that before the president even finished talking to us, they would have finished the whole, deal, gazetted, and it becomes another issue, even though we can fight it. But it will take another strength to do that. So what we are saying is that the president, for now, he should stop everything. They should tell the Minister of Employment that, Master, these boys are aggrieved. They have an issue, which he thinks that they have a case. So please, for now, stop whatever discussion that you are having with this sale.
All right.
So why do you tell it? For what? Why don't you employ Bryan to come and then manage the hotels instead of giving it out?
Do you think if the president could do what you are asking, he will call for a meeting with you before he would do it?
Why is he calling us? To tell us what? To convince us or what? Then there's no need for us to even to go to that meeting. There's no need for us to see him. If there's nothing that he can do, why is he called us in the first place?
Okay.
Then he should stop it. He can stop it. He has the power to stop it. But why? Why is that? Everything in this country. What is this? And somebody is defending it. Look at that. You are defending it. What people are suffering. Look, ILO has written that in about 9 to 10 years' time, SNIT scheme will collapse. And this is alarming. I've been writing ILO. You know the capacity of ILO.
SNIT has put a rejoinder to that it's not accurate.
They are lying. Then you must even sack all the SNIT, the managers. Look, the law must be amended so that they remove all these people there. They are there serving their own interest.
Okay.
Serving interest.
Okay, Mr. Abraham Kusin, thank you very much for your time this morning. And he is the Secretary General of the Federation of Labour. Dr. Theo Champong Dr. Theo Champong joins us in the next final installment or segment of this program, and that has to do with the Parliament's boycott by the minority. But of course, he will share his views on this quickly before we do that. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I've said it, and I'll repeat it again. Those who are coming to this administration thinking that it's an avenue for making a lot of money are going to be disappointed. They better go to the private sector. That is where people make money, not in government.
You're welcome back. This Newsfile is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first, a few of your messages, and then we'll continue. This one, the Emperor says that NAPO has really paid for the slot. NIB conducting an intra-party poll. This is how our state institutions have been rendered too. Enyam Inko Ray says it's obvious Bawumia doesn't want to pick Napo. If he wanted to, he would have chosen him long ago. You don't know if he has. It's clear he has his own preference to partner him. The party should allow him to pick his own choice and not put any undue pressure on him. Musa Abator says Dr. Bawumia's inability to choose his running mate highlights his indecisiveness and lack of self-confidence. This delay suggests a deeper issue likely stemming from the mismanagement of the economy under his watch, making it difficult to find someone. Really? Excellence Rain says, not even a running mate from the Ashanti region can save the NPP this 2024 election. It doesn't matter which person they choose. Now, Ghanaians won't vote based on tribal lines. Prince Henry in Koforibia, in fact, Nana Akufo-Addo doesn't respect Ghanaians at all, because if he does, I don't think he would sanction the Wanchendi SML deal again. Okay, that's a different matter we are not discussing here. The only way to seek accountability from the NPP government, led by Nana Bawumia, is by voting them out December 7. Okay, thank you for your message nonetheless. Let's try and keep our messages as factual as it can be. Why should it be the prerogative of a president to appoint an auditor general? If it's injunction they are asking for, why didn't they go to court but Shraj? Okay, so someone, Arabna, suggesting that you should go to court and get an injunction rather than going to Shraj. Why would the whole government marshal all forces to defend an individual businessman in government? This is from Mickey. Says you should leave Bryan to defend himself. Yakubu Ibn Chambers says, in as much as I condemn in uncertain terms the unbridled galamsey comments by the MP, I equally frown on rancorous comments by politicians for political gains. On the issue of choosing a running mate, it is neither here nor there. It is the driver who has to work his backside off to win the elections. What Dr. Bawumia needs to do is to activate the public interest position on his choice. And that is it. Delay does not connote a bad choice. Yakubu Ibn Chambers, thank you for that. Tanko Osman says, okay, that's the earlier one. It was actually Tanko Osman tweeting at the emperor that I read earlier. So thanks for your messages. Proverbial Twitter, GK Kofi Amwa says, unless you are a stranger in this country, to think otherwise, that the things which can't and mustn't and shouldn't be justified are those that are conveniently justified. All right, thanks for those messages anyway. Now, let me quickly get on the phone lines and hear Dr. Theo Champong briefly, very briefly, so that we go with some brief comments on the boycott of Parliament. Hello, Doc.
Yes, Samson, I'm here following the arguments very keenly, but right. It comes down to two things, right? Mm-hmm. The SNIT decision to sort of diversify its portfolio vis-a-vis the act and the mandate that sets them up, and then the actors that are involved in the process, specifically in this case, Bryan Champong, whom I actually have no relation with, and then, you know, the issues surrounding conflict of interest and due process and all of that. If you take the first one quickly on that, the questions that I have at the back of my mind really is, you know, is this being done? Where's the value for money in it? Was the due process followed at the end, or from the perspective of SNIT? Were the necessary board and other approvals sought in a way that safeguards SNIT's, you know, interest in all of this? And I think the gentleman from the Federation of Labour actually raised an important question in all of this. Yes, they can diversify portfolio and do all sort of things in an attempt to make more returns for their shareholders, but for who and why and where? And I think there are questions in there that need to be answered. Then the second aspect of the issue that we're debating here is the actors that are involved in the sale. And this is where a lot of questions also have been raised about, Bryan Achampong and his company and the capacity, and whether or not, like Honorable Okujeto was highlighting a few moments ago, they even had the necessary paperwork at the time the bids were being submitted to even have qualified them in the first place as part of the procurement, processes. But I am worried that we seem, or I think Honorable Mesa, made the claim that it could be right versus is it the law? This law versus morality kind of argument where conflict of interest is actually on those three things that you mentioned, Samson: actual, apparent, and potential, or perceived in that sense. And I think when you look at the optics in and around this deal, I would think that the Minister of Agriculture and his company probably should stay out of this, because the optics for me doesn't sound right.
Doc, in law, the minister is not the same as the company. In law, the company is separate from the minister.
The company is separate from the entity, right? But he also sits in government. He sits in cabinet. Are we saying that there was no undue influence or process, just by virtue of even him being minister, so to say, that could not have affected the outcome?
And that is speculative,
process.
Isn't
it? It is. But it is not something that is not out of the ordinary, because we know how things are done in this country. And it's interesting because, again, if you go back to the UMB case that we were talking about just a few years ago, there were similar allegations that were made back then.
I hosted, I've gone back to play those. And these days, that's what I do, Doc. I go back and play some of those things. And I remember the MPP guys who were on this same platform, Newsfile.
Absolutely.
The things they did to John Mahama as a president, even though John Mahama had nothing to do with the transaction.
Oh, remember there were even claims that Ibrahim Mahama was involved in all sort of things, right?
Exactly. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, with my friend Ejapa Mensah sitting here, that if this was happening in an NDC regime, Ejapa would have sat here and done the same exact thing that Sam Okujeto is doing.
So
you would have said it's morally reprehensible.
Let's be consistent. These things are morally.
The provisions on getting the certificate of the speaker.
Yes.
Aslawusu sat on this platform and repeated it so many times, and I was so bad. And today we are back to that.
I have the certificate of the speaker.
Right.
Except that now I don't
practice your law.
Yes, except that now because I'm in the executive, I don't practice law.
All right. All right. Okay. Yes, Doc.
Samson, you see the inconsistencies. You see how when one administration is in power, or when the goalposts change, the narrative changes, right? And you begin to ask yourself, who is actually working for who in all of this? So for me, any attempt to close that gaps, and this is what I think Sami was talking about, a law that would tighten the rules and ban, such sales to people that are politically exposed or their entities and companies. For me, I'm all for it, because there are big issues in here where people are benefiting from the state at the expense, you could even argue, of the broader public interest. And I must commend personally Sami and the public interest work that is actually done on this, because but for some of the things coming out, many of us will probably even not be aware of some of these shady deals.
Yes, like I have said before, he's done a far better investigative journalism work than many of the investigative journalists in the country have been doing. Oh, please. Right. So this show is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 years plus. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex Tanks is strong, it's tough, and Flamingo Paints, simply superior. Getting some messages and people reminding me of me hosting Gabi, Magas, Egbert Fable, and the rest of them on this show, Fireworks. Anyway, it's interesting. This is Ghana. So let's hear Emmanuel, let's hear Aveji on the questions of quorum and the minority on the issue of the trial that is going on in the ambulance case, where they prefer to go to court with their colleague rather than go to Parliament, and they will not lose their salary.
There is still no quorum. Suspend sitting of the House for a period of not more than 1 hour. Mr. Speaker, can you direct the clerk and table to conduct a head count?
They were recognized. No, we must correct that.
Honorable Chief Whip.
You were recognized. When you walked in, you were recognized. And when you walked in and you got up to speak, you were recognized. Let that go on the records. What is that?
I don't know the time you are using. My time is not up yet. I'm monitoring my time.
Mr. Speaker.
My time is not up to 10 minutes.
That the bell was rung. When the bell was rung, we all heard it. If you are telling this House or me that you are using your time,
Honorable Beji, I'm left with 2 minutes.
Standing order regulate the conduct of the House. If our own standing order says it, why? No.
Clerk at table.
Mr. Speaker.
Clerk at table.
Mr. Speaker, we are not asking you now
Clerk
to go.
at table.
Mr. Speaker, we are not asking you
Please
now to go.
count the members.
Right. So practically this is what has been happening. I've been observing, Sammy, that sometime in the afternoon. You should all be in the House. And you can't get 92 members. At the last time I followed the counting, they counted about 12 or 13 for the NPP, and they counted about 32 or 5 for the NDC. And so they suspended the House. But the question people are asking is, why? In America, we are trying to emulate the best of democracies. Trump has gone through trial. It didn't bring the work of state to a standstill. Biden's son, the same. Why is it that for Ato Forson, you have to stop work, go to court, and then come when you can't do anything?
Well, Samson, to be fair to us, you will recall that when this trial started, we did not boycott proceedings when the Honorable Ato Forson, our leader, is required to be in court. This latest decision came about as a result of the leaked tape, the now Jakba series of tapes, which are making blockbuster reviews. It's as if we are watching a Hollywood movie, action-packed. And it is clear in our mind, after listening to those audios, that this is a kangaroo process, that there is no credibility. These are trumped-up charges, and this whole Ato Forson, harassment must end. We thought that the Judicial would declare a mistrial, and this total charade, which has really become an embarrassment, an insipid disgrace to the judicial system of our country. We thought that this matter would just have been ended. And so it is out of the outrage that we all have, listening to those tapes and how the Attorney General sought to get one of the witnesses, Mr. Jakpa, to falsely accuse the Honorable Ato Forson. Don't forget.
It's not true.
Don't forget that these are grave matters.
Samson.
These are grave matters to bear false witness. I mean, and we know the implications.
You can't allow this to
destroy the Honorable Ato. We've all listened to the tape.
Yes.
We've all listened
you cannot allow this to write because it's not true.
We've all listened to the tape. So what is not true? Every Ghanaian has listened to the tape. So it is as a result of that. But yes, Samson, I agree with you that on the issue of quorum, we can do better. What we do is that after the proceeding, when we boycott, and remember that boycotts are parliamentary tools. In every democracy, boycotts, abstention.
But how is this justified? That we are paying you with the taxpayers' money to sit in Parliament to work for us. So, and you decided that your leader, who was not the leader when the case started, yes, and you decided to make him a leader, yes, after the case started.
Yes.
That suddenly a judge says, I will not permit you, him to be absent for certain days. And you say, since the judge says you will not give that permission, we will also not go to Parliament.
And after listening to, there's been a seismic development. We can't ignore that. That tape, we can't ignore the Jakpa tape. So we are convinced that this is some kangaroo process. And so we are registering protests. In a democracy,
you're going to court does not change the evidence before the court.
We concede, but we must make a point. Boycotts are part of democratic tools. In the democratic tool basket, you can protest, you can go on demonstration, which we did this week on this SNIT hotels matter. You can boycott, you can write petitions, you can picket. You know, we have chosen boycotts. But after the proceedings, we go to the House. And on the issue of...
The proceedings end around 3, 4, sometimes a little late.
And
there are times closing.
Yeah, and there are times that our proceedings in Parliament can go up to even midnight. There are times we've even sat to the next day.
But so, by then, the Speaker would have been told that there's no quorum, and then he'll ring the bell for, 10 minutes? Yeah. Then after which they will find that there's no sufficient numbers, and they would have suspended the House anyway.
So Samson, we have told the Ghanaian people and our people who elected us to Parliament, the citizens, why we are boycotting. I would like to hear from our colleagues because they can make up the numbers to form a quorum. They are 137 plus 1, the independent candidate who has decided to work with them. You know, so 92, they really don't need us to form a quorum. And yet, the House is not able to form a quorum. They haven't told us that they are boycotting. I'm not aware of any issue that really prevents them from coming to the House. So you can't blame us for the lack of quorum, particularly when we have announced to the country why we have decided to embark on this protest. So really, we should be finding out from our colleagues who are not boycotting and yet will not come to the House. But ultimately, let it be said that we must...
Because of time. For how long are you going to continue with
this? We must as a House.
For as long as the case goes on. And the judge doesn't give him permission to stay away.
Yes, that is the caucus decision. But as a House, I think that Speaker and leadership, we should find a way, probably when we return from the boycotts.
Yes, let's get a Japanese view on this. And Kofi Bento, I fondly remember him here on this show, on this merchant bank for T's issue. He says, I was part of the resistance when Merchant Bank was being sold. Indeed, I and Tampuli, you know Tampuli, now a minister, and Egbert Fable sued SNIT. The principle then was that it was wrong, even if it was lawful. I stand by the same principle today and say that the sale of the SNIT hotels is wrong, even if allowed by law. Bryan buying the hotels is wrong. It looks and feels wrong, and that matters. We must stop public officials and ministers from buying state assets. I will support a law that says no to political appointees that may purchase a state asset unless after 4 years from when they leave office. So he's supporting you, Sammy.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
You see, this sensationalist way that my brother addresses issues sometimes.
We have just a minute.
It's unbelievable.
On the tape.
Have you
listened to the tape?
It's a series of tapes.
Yes.
How many tapes have you listened to?
There are 3 tapes. Samson is an expert on the tape.
There's one tape out there.
Yeah, there's only one tape out there. Yeah. What is out is only one.
So the question is, but even if they are boycotting,
yes, I agree.
You have 100 and what?
Yes, 138.
Okay.
Yes.
You still can't.
I don't think that we're doing the Ghanaian populace a lot of good. Me myself, I've been a corporate because of the nature of the work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get caught up in ministry and you're unable to. But when the whip calls, we all rush to go in. I think we should improve.
We should have no business having MPs as ministers, and that is the amendment we must ensure.
Well, I do not have any difficulty if we get to that point, and we amend our constitution to reflect that. Okay, but in all honesty, I think that we've not been doing ourselves both sides, because like you said, this so-called solidarity with their leader is neither here nor there. It should not preclude you from performing your services or the functions that the Ghanaian people have elected you to go and perform in the House of Parliament. The majority haven't done well either.
Maybe they should contribute money and hire the best of lawyers to do the work and support your leader to make a good case, isn't it?
We should make time to attend Parliament.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Shua Champong, some 30 seconds because our time is up. Very sorry.
No, quickly. I mean, the more these delays, the more it affects parliamentary work, and then bills and things that need to be passed would not be passed. So ultimately, we end up paying the price for the delays.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Shua Champong. And my outfits, as always, these days is by Kunati Clothing. Kunati Clothing. Just call them and you get a discount, which is still ongoing, between 10 and 15% discount for you if you call them anytime, and they would give you the best that you are looking for as well. And as we check out, remember that Nathaniel Ato is up next. Don't miss Joy Sports Link, as Nathaniel Ato brings you a thought-provoking conversation with the Ghana amputee football team, who are champions of Africa after winning the prestigious amputee AFCON. They seem to be getting close to zero recognition. Could this be a case of discrimination, and what effect it is having on the psyche of these champions? That's what Joy Sports Link is doing this afternoon. Of course, my favorite show, The Law, as tomorrow at 2 p.m. we are doing soul sourcing with the aspects, the best you can have. Have a good afternoon. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
Where Duraplas goes, water flows.
PS Industries has introduced a new roofing system known as Colorlink Plus.
Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Syntax tank, are you strong? Are you tough?
Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them.